Sleep tight, Mum, whispered Daniel Rivers, pressing a kiss to my forehead before turning off the light. His wife, Aylana, lingered by the door, her smile soft but her eyes calculating. You're safe now, Nora, she murmured. We'll take care of everything. Then I heard it, the soft click of the lock turning from the outside, from the window. I watched them walk down the driveway of my lake house, their silhouettes framed by the pale reflection of the moon. The calm night rippled as Daniel lifted a red fuel canister from the back of his Tesla. Aylana held another. They moved with purpose, tracing the outline of my house with slow, deliberate sweeps. I wasn't supposed to be awake. The sedatives Aylana had been slipping into my evening tea should have knocked me out cold, but I'd stopped drinking it 3 days ago, through the open window. I smelled the gasoline long before I saw Daniel strike the match. They thought they'd inherit everything. My company, my estate, my billions. But by the time they came back from their fake dinner alibi, I would be sitting right here, wide awake. With the fire marshal and my head of security. It wouldn't be the first time someone underestimated me. My name is Nora Rivers, 71 years old, founder of Neuralson Technologies, a company that once rewired the human brain for memory enhancement. Ironically, everyone assumed I was losing mine. They were wrong. 6 hours earlier, the eavesdrop monitors in my private hospital room glowed faintly blue. I kept my eyes half closed, pretending to drift in and out of drug-induced sleep. Daniel and Aylana stood at the foot of my bed, whispering furiously. She's fading, Aylana said. The morphine's doing most of the work for us. It's too slow, Daniel hissed. She could live another decade. We need it to look natural. A heart failure at home. She's had episodes. It'll fit the narrative. The pills they'd been giving me weren't painkillers. They were digitoxin, the same drug used in small doses to mimic dementia. Aylana, ever the pharmacist, knew exactly how to calibrate it. I nearly smiled under my oxygen mask. They thought I was a patient. I was just collecting evidence. On the nightstand beside me, a small silver locket sat quietly recording everything. A hidden mic disguised as jewelry, one of many precautions I'd developed back when corporate espionage was a hobby of my competitors. Aylana leaned closer to my son. By midnight, the house burns. Insurance clears in 6 weeks. Then we file for probate, and Mum. She'd be ashes by morning. They walked out of the room hand in hand, predators who mistook pity for victory. The moment the door closed, I opened my eyes. Alexa, I whispered. Call Victor Hale. Victor was my chief of security. Ex-SA, loyal, terrifying, and worth every cent I paid him. Mrs. Rivers, came his calm voice through my AirPod. Code Ember, I said. Activate full containment. Chapter, preparing for fire. By the time Daniel's car pulled into the driveway, I had transformed my quiet lakeside mansion into a fortress. The fire sensors Aylana had accidentally disconnected were rewired. The cameras she disabled were live. My medical files, digital will, and every record of their poisoning attempts had already been uploaded to a secure offshore server. And just for drama's sake, I called the fire department myself. This is Nora Rivers, I told the dispatcher. My home is under immediate threat of arson. Please send a fire marshal. Code 9 priority. When you're worth $4.6 billion, people don't ask too many questions. The irony was delicious. I'd spent my life designing algorithms that could predict human behavior. My own son had just proven the model correct. Greed follows patterns. Chapter, the trap at exactly 8:15 p.m. Daniel and Aylana returned from their dinner alibi, through the front window. I saw their headlights slice through the fog. I sat waiting in the living room, wearing my pearl earrings and holding a cup of black coffee. Beside me stood Fire Marshal Rene Cortez and Detective Marcus Lyon, both taking in the scene like hawks. The front door opened. Mum, Daniel exclaimed, his tone the perfect blend of surprise and horror. We smelled smoke on the road. How thoughtful, I said, my voice calm. Especially since you're the ones who poured it. Aylana froze. Fire Marshal Cortez stepped forward. We found accelerant residue around the property, consistent with deliberate ignition patterns. Care to explain? Daniel blinked rapidly. That's impossible. We were having dinner. Ask the staff. Oh, we did, Detective Lyon replied. Funny thing, though, the timestamp on your restaurant receipt shows 9:05 p.m. That's After the fire alarm went off here, Eleanor's face drained of colour. You can't prove anything, she snapped. Oh, but I can. I tapped my smartwatch. The hidden mic recording from the hospital began to play. Eleanor's voice echoed through the room. By midnight, the house burns. The silence that followed was exquisite. Chapter ashes, and evidenceth trial that followed became international news within a week. Tech billionaire outsmarts murder plot by own family. Every headline made me sound like a cross between Sherlock Holmes and a Bond villain. Daniel's lawyers claimed stress, addiction, and manipulation. Eleanor's defense argued I was paranoid, controlling, and mentally unstable. They underestimated just how meticulously I documented every betrayal. Emails showing Eleanor forging prescriptions, bank transfers to Daniel's offshore accounts, surveillance footage of them replacing my medication bottles. The prosecutor barely needed to speak. The evidence spoke louder than any lawyer could. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, attempted murder, arson, and fraud, Daniel collapsed. Eleanor didn't flinch. She just stared at me like a cobra sizing up its next strike. Chapter The Past isn't finished. 6 months later, I moved to a quiet coastal town in Maine. My new house overlooked the Atlantic. Far from the chaos of Silicon Valley, I thought it was over, until one morning, a letter arrived. No return address. Just a single line written in Eleanor's handwriting. You didn't destroy us, Nora. You only taught me how to win. Inside the envelope was a flash drive. Against my better judgment, I plugged it into a burner laptop. Video files. Dozens of them. Surveillance from my own home before the poisoning ever began. Footage of me. Victor appeared at my door an hour later, his expression grim. These files were planted. Someone's trying to build a case that you orchestrated everything. I laughed, bitterly. Eleanor's rewriting the narrative from prison. Not just her, he said. Her lawyers filed a motion. Claims new evidence shows you manipulated your son into signing over assets. She's angling for a retrial. I looked out at the grey sea. Then I suppose I'll have to remind the world who they're dealing with. Chapter The Widows. Codette Woe. Weeks later, I held a press conference. My first in years. Cameras flashed as I stepped to the podium, calm and deliberate. People have called me a genius, a survivor, even a villain. I began. Let me tell you what I really am. A woman who refuses to be erased by those who think age makes you weak. I paused. My company's new initiative, Project Amber, will use neural memory mapping to preserve truth itself, unalterable, incorruptible digital recollection. No more false narratives. No more rewriting histories. We'll protect the past from liars. Reporters erupted with questions. Some thought it was a tech announcement. Others realized it was a message to Eleanor, a declaration of war disguised as innovation. And it worked. A month later, Eleanor withdrew her appeal. Anonymous sources said she'd been shown something by my lawyers. Evidence she'd never want made public. Epilogue, Legasino. At 72, I sit on my veranda overlooking the sea, sipping tea no one else has touched. I still talk to Daniel in my dreams, the version of him who used to bring me wildflowers from the garden. Before greed rewired his soul, maybe I'll forgive him one day. But I'll never forget, because forgetting is how monsters win. And I didn't survive this long just to fade quietly into memory. I built my empire on code, logic, proof, truth. Now I live by a different one. Trust no one completely. Love carefully. Prepare for everything. The world sees a frail old widow. I see the architect of her own survival. And if you're listening, yes, Eleanor, I know you are. Consider this my final message. You taught me fire could destroy anything. But I learned it can also forge steel.